Welcome to our Devos. This week, we are talking about everyone's favorite subject in church. It's money. It's money, and we're going to talk about this for 2 weeks. We have to. We do it at least once a year for two reasons, because number one, I don't know anyone that doesn't have to deal with money in one way, shape, or form. Number two, the abundance of things that the Bible has to say about money is staggering. It's all through the scriptures. So it's important for us, if we are truly following after Jesus, to understand what it is that God wants us to know about money. So money matters. If you're a Christian and you're like, money doesn't matter, it kind of does. Just like we are responsible at our jobs to manage the resources that we're given at our jobs, we're responsible to manage what God has given us of His to trust. So, let's take a look at the first consideration. Now, these are like random money facts, okay? Random money thoughts from the scriptures. And like I said, if you Google how many, you could do this right now. Just Google how many verses have to deal with money or business or owning a business or how do you save, credit, all those things. Like the Bible just talks so much about this stuff. So one of the things when we're looking at making our money matter more in terms of how we are managing it for God is we have to carefully consider. A lot of us, we don't carefully consider. This is one of those subjects where when Pastor Mike and I are teaching, because we both kind of have a lot of passion about this, only because a lot of the stuff that we deal with when we're trying to help people, this is one of those areas where it really falls apart quickly. So when we see people, a lot of times they don't carefully consider the decisions they make. The Bible talks about those that make hasty decisions or hastily gain wealth. I have been, and I'll just share this, over the last, I don't know, how many years, as long as I've been in ministry, I've always done work on the side. So I've always done side stuff, side gigs, side hustles. Well, this year, this is the first year I actually started a formal business, like a formal business. All right. Now, you might say, well, you've always had a business on the side. I have, but I never formally started it. And the reason why is every time I would sit down and I would calculate, well, how much effort this is, and I have to pay people to do this and get this put together. I had no desire because I considered it. And this year I kind of considered the different things that I was doing, and I realized this was the year. Well, I'm not saying I'm wise. I'm saying that a lot of people, what they do is, I'm going to go start a business, and they do all this money, they go into all this debt, they do all this stuff, and they don't carefully consider what it is that they're doing. And they don't consider what is actually going to happen if they make this financial decision. If you buy that car, don't think about what it feels like to drive it off the lot. Think about what it's going to feel like in 2 years when that new car needs tires and you're upset because the car payment, and you have to come up with tires and the car payment in the same month. What do you do with that, right? So that's carefully considering. Carefully considering is the house you buy. In this message, I said the problem with most Americans is we don't ask the question of how much something costs. We ask ourselves, how much is this going to cost per month? But you have to really look at can I afford to live in this? If I buy this house right now and I max out how much it is for me and right now it's really hard to find a decent home to live in, consider the cost. Consider how much it's going to cost in the long run. So in Luke chapter 14, verse 28, Jesus says, which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? People that spend money, they see if they have the money first before they decide to spend, or they plan accordingly of how they can afford it if they don't. People that are not wise will buy first and figure out, well, how am I going to afford this? We have to bring this to an end. Carefully consider. Jesus says, count the cost. He encourages costs to be counted. So I want to encourage you, if you want your money to be more under control, that you consider before you purchase, consider before you make a decision, because counting the cost makes your money matter more.